So we have done business model canvas and we've done design thinking. Now the design thinking one that I posted for you, very powerful piece of methodology. And now you're getting armed to get your ideas working. Okay. Today we'll be looking at video, a couple of sequences of short videos within this video on value proposition. But as I said with you guys, we will have to decide on a time and place for your team working. Now, I think, let me see, Thursdays. I think perhaps starting from next Thursday that you use this lecture hour to work on your concept, your idea as such. And yep, that way at least you have an allotted time that you have essentially no excuse for not getting together. You can have your Zoom calls with yourselves or WhatsApp sessions, whatever you want to use, just so you can knock heads together and come up with a couple of ideas. And then we'll take it from there. So, what else did I want to cover on this morning or today even? Yeah, we'll get down to where we're going to go. Oh, and we bring out the projector. We get down as a corner. We bring out there we are. Value proposition. I'll enlarge it for you so you can see it a little bit better. Before I go into this stuff, seriously have a look at the value proposition, or at least the design thinking process. I assume you all saw at this stage Harris Heller, and he's a good guy, and he talks brutally honest about the big bucks that he's making as a streamer in YouTube, and also the work that he had to put into it. These things don't happen overnight. And the much of what he was describing and the layers, these are all the revenue streams, the possible ways of getting in money and so on and so forth. You know, even if you're running say for argument's sake, let's just say you're running a physio practice and so on. You might create videos of certain exercise and put those up on YouTube and have it as a closed group, similarly as I have as a closed group on my channel. And you can charge patronage. That's one source of income. You have people coming to you on a regular basis. You could start developing customizable exercises that you could do maybe over Zoom or without people having to come to the practice as such, and working hours. These are all different revenue streams. It's all about using your imagination, and as Harris Heller was saying, you know, he thinks outside the box. He thinks, well, what way can I make money? How can I best serve my customers as such? Even having t-shirts for your own physio and so on and so forth, because people like to belong to things. That's human nature, you know. Understanding how people think is really, really important. That's why this design process of empathy is so powerful. Putting yourselves in. I told you some of the stories that we had to encounter, you know, and practice that we had to do to get data and so on. And you test it. And if we go back to the earlier days of the internet and Obama's elections, for example, and his campaign, and there was a guy running his data analytics, and he was saying, you know, the different photographs that they use of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, and the family photographs, and and so on. They put up one and they might change the color slightly, and they could see in real time the reactions, whether more or fewer people were liking the photographs and changing, and that was instant feedback and constantly tweaking things at that pace. Now that's all very fine when you're running something like that on the internet and so on, but the same for these business channels. And you heard this guy describing how he when he was thinking of his ideas, he was thinking ahead. Now, there will be another, I'll show it to you guys later on during the course, but a thing called road mapping. So where do we go from here? What's next? What's next? What's next? You've always got to be thinking ahead. So, you guys are saying, look, you're in first and second year. Say, geez, we've another 3 or 4 years to get before we get out the back door into our degree. And then there's going to be so many with degrees. And then do we want to go on and do a master's? And then do we want to go on and do PhDs and all this sort of stuff? These all take time. You might decide, yeah, okay, I'll take it to degree level, go out, get some more experience, and then come back and see, well, where would I like to specialize? What masters would I like to go on? Or maybe I think I'll have a better job prospect with a master's, and then decide where I want to specialize and come back in with a PhD and so on, and see what the market is like out there, and all this sort of stuff. So, I mean, things change, variables change, and you have to be so aware of what's happening around you and outside you to be able to make decisions. And that's what this whole empathy and the first phase and of design thinking, and indeed in your own professional careers. I mean, there's even a version of the business model canvas, would you believe it, for your professional development as such, looking at who are the people that can help you, what resources do I need, and so on. So rather than thinking of a product or service, you have this like a roadmap for yourself. What do I need to be able to get to the next stage and so on. And it's a way of putting some kind of methodology, structure, form onto your lives, onto your professions, as well as onto products. So it makes it easier for the brain to be able to work, because they say, well, this is me and this is where I am now, so I want to offer these products and services, therefore I need to upskill myself in this area, and I need to get some more training here, more experience there, maybe take a bit of time out to do something else, and then come back over here and say, well, now I can offer this service, and so on. So it's a constant interaction between your own professional development and, of course, I'll call it the industry or the profession you're working in. So you've got to match the skills that are most required, and listening to your clients, your customers, or whomever they are, to say, well, what are they really looking for? Are they looking for more, if you look at on the physio, is it just general health? Is it specific niggling issues, complaints and so on and so forth? Or is there something I can do in terms of a combination of that and nutrition and exercise and well-being and so on and so forth? So you're listening to the clients and say, well, I can't offer nutrition because I'm not covered. I'm a physiotherapist. I don't have the nutritionist. So you augment yourself with a nutritionist and say, well, okay, now our practice has expanded. We cover these areas, so you can have a wider offering to your clients who originally came in looking for some physio. Now they're looking for constant oil check on their body, such that they can move on. So this is where you're at now. These are all possibilities in terms of what you want to think of in terms of a product or a service, and that's what today I'm just going to cover this thing, as we call it, the value proposition. I'm moving around here because I'm a little bit uncomfortable with this freaking knee. I shouldn't be sitting anyway, for starters, in this position, but look, who gives a rat's ass? I don't. Right, value proposition. Let's get the show on the road. Now this is, as I said to you, this is a sequence of short videos. Bear with your man's voice. However, my voice comes across. I'll leave you to judge on this guy himself. Anyway, here we are. Let us get down to the video element itself. Okay.
So you're all familiar with the business model canvas. And hopefully by now you've actually taken a shot and try to fill out the canvas for your own idea in your own startup. But today we're going to talk about the first box, value proposition. Value proposition is just a fancy word in the business model canvas for what is it that you're building? What product or service are you building? And by the way, we're going to ask later, for who are you building it? And what exactly does it solve for those people? So let's take a look at value proposition. As I said, it's not just about your idea or product. One of the things that's hard for founders to realize, there's actually a customer at the other end. And so while you're thinking this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, the whole idea about customer development is to get you out of the building and tell me whose need or problem you're solving. It's about satisfying a customer need, not just you thinking, what a great idea. And that can't be repeated enough. So today, while we're talking about value proposition works hand in hand with who your customers are, which we'll be talking about in the next lecture. Understand that this relationship between what you're building, the value proposition, and the customer is what makes startups succeed or fail on day one right there. And we give those two boxes, those two relationships, a special name. We call that product market fit. And when you hear the phrase product market fit, just simply visualize the canvas and go, oh, that's another fancy word that says, is what I'm building needed or wanted or passionately desired by a set of customers on the other end? And if I don't have that, then the good news is about the customer development process is it allows us to keep searching without going out of business. And so what you'll find is we'll be iterating back and forth, doing things called pivots and iterations as we kind of discover what customers really want versus what we think we're building for them.
Apologies, forgot to turn on the mic. Anyway, I said I didn't want to frighten you by saying that those two boxes, the value proposition, customer segmentation, and so on, that's the most challenging part of the whole process. That's where you have to really, rack your brains to come up with an idea of a product or a service, and then finding out, do you think customers will like that? Really, once you start fine-tuning that's the bulk of the work. And once you've agreed, particularly as a group, and say, geez, yeah, we think we're onto something here, and get some validation back from customers and so on, and they're telling you, yeah, we like your idea, we like your thingy, proposition, and so on and so forth. That's the ball beginning to start rolling. Everything else, literally everything else, falls into place. Trust me, it really does. It begins to get a life of its own. So I'm going to go on now and let you have a listen to the next part on this.
So let's take a look at value proposition. Now, value proposition is not something you're building in isolation. While the value proposition is about solving a customer problem or need, it really consists of three components. The easy one for most entrepreneurs to talk about is what product features you have or what product services you're providing. But there's actually two more important components to value proposition. What gain are you creating for customers, and what pain are you solving for them? Alexander Osterwalder, when he drew the business model canvas, really emphasized this. It's not just about your product. And especially if you come from a technical background, it's really easy to see, oh, look at all these features. And if you find yourself doing that, you need to complete the sentence and say, yes, but here's what we make people be able to do better, and here are the problems we solve for them. So the real goal of you figuring out the value proposition is understanding what we call the minimal viable product. You're trying to figure out, now that I kind of understand my product and service and that what I'm gaining for customers and what pain I'm solving, what's the smallest possible feature set I could be shipping on day one that solves these pains and creates gains for them? And this really is an interactive process because there's no way, no possible way, sitting in your office, you could figure this out. And the default for great engineers and great entrepreneurs is, oh, I understand customers' problems and needs, so, don't worry about it. We'll just spec the entire product on day one. Your real goal here is to figure out what's the smallest thing you could build and develop that actually get you users or sales or whatever and get out to market as quickly as possible. And so the goal of you getting out of the building for value proposition is understanding gains and pains so you can figure out what's the MVP or minimum viable product.
Okay, and I'll come back into you again. So, key point again on that one is the minimum viable proposition. You don't go out offering the kitchen sink, everything and sundry with them. Just get what's the basic going in. That's why I talk about a roadmap, because you want to be able to add stuff and keep customers' interest, keep them coming back. So you'll solve the initial part of their pain, and inevitably something else crops up. So you go so far with them, and then you go for the next iteration. That's why you see, for example, with your apps, there's constant updates of them, because there are various issues, new features and bugs being fixed in things, because people, well, it doesn't solve my problem, which is a new addition to your existing customer base. You satisfied a group of customers with the first iteration, and more come back and say, well, can it do this, can it do that, and so on, and you keep adding to it. And that's why we have these, basic product and then the add-ons, as we say, onto all of these. But that's important. As I said, what's the minimum viable proposition that will grab you customers and a sufficient number of customers to create a business in the first instance? Okay, so we'll keep going on this. Next slide. We'll play.
Some of the questions you might want to be asking as you're outside the building now, talking to customers, is competition. Competition kind of exists outside the business model canvas. Think of the canvas now floating in a world where other people's business model canvases are floating as well. And so just kind of take a step back and go, well, who else is out there? And what are they doing? The next thing you want to be asking, again, outside the canvas, why is this problem so hard to solve? Or why is this service not being done by other people? It might be that hopefully you really do have a insight or breakthrough. Or it might be you're hallucinating. And so you really do need to keep asking that question, not only to yourself, go ask it to the people you're talking to. Ask them, has anybody done this? And if they come, yeah, we've never seen it, ask them why. Why do you think? You might get some insight like, oh yeah, there have been 9 vendors in the last 3.5 years who tried this and they all failed. Warning, you might want to investigate why that happened. Hopefully you have a different approach or different insight than anybody else. And as we kept talking about earlier, market size. We're going to be talking about how to size the market at the end of this lecture. But you really do want to understand, how big is this problem, and is this what we want to spend our next couple years doing? And then finally, as we said, how do you do it once you understand the customer needs?
Okay, so that's a couple of key points in there. The market size, which I mentioned previously there, and also, as I said, other vendors in the last number of years, and they all failed. 9 vendors in the last 3.5 years, and they all failed. Warning sign, and so on. And the key point he was making there, that you might have a different approach. Now, you could have existing vendors. I mean, why do we have? I'll keep bouncing on the physiotherapists, but physiotherapists are in existence, and now you'll have a new batch of physiotherapists coming out, and they might set up shop again in the same town or whatever, set up practice or close to it. Why? Because they might have had new technology. They offer a different variant of the service. They might have different, more up-to-date techniques, so on and so on and so on. Or they might be specialized in particular areas. So they research their markets, and then they find that, yeah, there's no one here handling. We're up in the middle of Kildare, and there's a lot of cyclists up here. Maybe we need to specialize in their kind of physiotherapy and so on and so forth. And trust me, there are an awful lot of cyclists up around this neck of the wood for some, I don't know, maybe it's because it's flat. We all like to cycle up around here, and but they're, so, and they have different types of injury. I mean, help me. When you're constantly doing the same positioning on your muscle memory, I think it is, isn't it? Or something like that, if you're in the same kind of position all the time and are doing the same types of exercises, your muscles begin to hold memory, and then you end up, for example, in cycling, you're in the same rotatory type of physical exertion, and then you have to stretch to open out your muscles afterwards, you know, your back, glutes and quads and so on. And similarly, before you even to loosen up, as you say, almost any sport you'll have to loosen up. So in itself, that brings in a lot of physical effort as such. So there is a huge industry for that inside it, there, and personal trainers in this area, and people looking for coaches in just strength training. I'm not even talking about going out on a bike. Last winter, for example, I spent 2 months going over and back to a gym. Never even sat on a bike. And I could see a tremendous difference when I did eventually get out on a bike with all this COVID crap, you know. But the point is that, you know, you look for different ways of doing things, and if you can identify those types of markets, you could possibly do it differently. That's why if some people failed previously, maybe they were trying to apply the wrong solution to the wrong problem, for example, and now they might have a better solution to the existing problems and so on. So that's again, you'll only know by asking and digging out the information. Okay, keep the show running. Next one here.
So let's take a look at some value proposition examples. And I've selected some to just give you an idea of how other startups have approached articulating their value proposition. Here was a company that was actually trying to develop a bio-based replacement for surfactants. And they actually went out and understood the problem, came up with some solutions, and were trying to explain the pains and gains of their value proposition. Another example was a robotics agricultural weeding device. Now you notice here they're not talking about their device at all, they're talking about the problem. Is hand weeding of farm fields for organic crops is a nightmare. Another example, a company that was actually trying to figure out a better way to do cancer tests. And they actually try to understand what the problem was. And the problem was that cancer cells get detached and are circulating in the bloodstream. And oncologists and pathologists are trying to figure out whether their patients have circulating cancer tumor cells. And their features match the pain and the gain. These rest of the slides give you some examples of value propositions in medical devices, in dental care, etc. You could click on the link below for additional examples.
Okay, again, some seriously practical examples. Again, trying to solve problems, and you know, straight away you look at the crop pickers. Now I did mention about the machine that the Harvard students came up with, the business guys with their engineers, and they ended up creating a machine, a robotic. What started out as a lawnmower became a weed picking machine. Not only did it reduce on manual labor, but could you imagine the state of your back having spent hours on the field in that position alone, you know? Anyway, you know, we'll keep going. You're certainly getting my message on this. Pop this and next one.
So let's take a look at the value proposition in a little more detail and expand on those three components. The first one is your product, and as we said earlier, you need to understand which are part of your value proposition. Is it just hardware or software or bits? Or are there going to be some manufacturing goods, some commodities? Are you going to have intangible products that are part, copyrights and licenses that are part of your value proposition? Are you going to have any financial products, that is guarantees or insurance policies or maintenance contracts? Or are you going to add some digital features as well? The only point here is to realize that your product and service is not just the bits or hardware, it's actually the whole product, the entire package that you're going to be delivering.
Now that has been an evolved issue in business over the last, particularly I'd say probably 20, maybe going on 30 years as such. Because originally, now we will talk about this again when we start looking more at the marketing side of things, but you have essentially 7 P's now: product, price, promotion, and place. They were the original 4 P's of marketing. Now we have physical evidence, people, and processes. 7, yeah. And That's what's known as the extended marketing mix. And if you think about it, if you buy a computer today, they'll offer you maybe insurance on it, and breakdown and different levels of insurance. If you want, same day insurance, you pay extra bucks. If you want, it'll satisfy me to have it fixed within a week, then you pay a lower level of insurance. You buy a car, you'll end up with warranties and services, first service free, second service, this, that, and the other thing, and extended warranties, and so these are all the add-ons. And when you think about it, fundamentally, a car is just a transportation device. The product itself just gets you from A to B. All of the rest, size of engine, color of car, all the sound system, these are all just add-ons. And then you have the service elements of it. Bring it in, and it's under warranty for the first 12 months or 6 months or whatever. Everything is looked after, and blah 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 blah. These are all the service elements that go on. So that's why they ended up having to extend the marketing mix from simple 4 to 7 P's, as it's known. Now, I do have a specific lecture on that, which I will cover into. So these are all the things you have to think about, which financial products are you offering? How are you going to finance? Not your business venture itself, but do you get people to pay on a monthly fee? Do you ask them to pay a deposit, and so on and so forth? These become parts of your revenue. Do you make it easier? Because the easier you make it for a customer to use your product and pay for the product, more of them will actually use it. And that's these getting that balance right, because you don't want to have a monthly fee and there's not sufficient money coming in to cover your costs. You might end up having to say, well, I need to have certain deposit and then monthly fee, and so on and so on. So all of these things that require thinking about, but you do find the balance. That's the important thing. You will find a balance in what works and what doesn't work, because you try, test, hypothesize in each instance. So we're coming up towards the last one, folks, and then we'll just wrap it up then after that. Next one. So here we are.
Value proposition for a company that's selling services is kind of the same. You just need to ask, what are the core services that are part of your value proposition? Consulting, haircut, investment advice. And if you're selling software or hardware, you could have separate services that are part of this whole product. Pre- and post-sales services, finding the right solution, financing, free delivery. Amazon makes a great business because, in fact, they could do one-day delivery, or they could do two-day premier service. That is, services sometimes, while might seem to be ancillary or kind of add-ons, actually make your products look better than their competitors. And then what are after-sales services? Free maintenance, disposal, etc. And so all these add up, again, to what is it that your product features do.
So, just get out here, and that's essentially it. So that presentation gives you a broader idea of all the elements that you can include in your product or in your service. So, in other words, if as I said, if you're using, you're developing a practice or a product, think of all the other add-ons. Now, and remember that you don't want to put all the add-ons in the first go. You want to have the minimum viable product. So here's what I'm offering. It's sufficiently different from what's already out there to attract customers. That's all it has to be. Just a subtle difference, or a huge difference, but subtle enough that will attract other customers. And sometimes you could be actually offering almost identical product or service to an existing competitor, but it's the way you package it as well. That's why marketing, it's all about. I'll be shot for saying things like this. Marketing can often be accused of being the bullshit brigade, because it's the way they'll spin the story, and that's the reality. You can literally, you've heard expressions, selling snow to Eskimos. That's a really good salesperson or a marketing person that are able to put the gloss onto something to be able to convince people. This is why you buy my product. Why do you buy Panadol versus Nurofen versus this, that, and the other thing? Half the time it's in the packaging. It causes looks. Or they put in active or fast, or the way they spell it, or even if the fast is on it with the streaks out of it, it registers with your mind. So again, it's playing on behaviors and so on. But coming back to the more practical side of things, coming up with those ideas and thinking how I'm going to sell, what else can I add on to this product or service down the road. And we will talk, as I said, we'll talk about roadmap, because it's another, just a simple technique to help you think about things, such that you can have a release, such that you have a continuity of business, a sustainable business. And that's the whole trick. Now, get over the first 2 or 3 years in your business, and you're into the happypreneur state. Jesus Christ, some gobshite came up with this idea, you know. Oh, we're all happypreneurs. When you survive the first 3 years of business, then and you're making money, yeah, Jesus, once you have a job and you're making money, why wouldn't you be happy, for crying out loud? But yeah, oh God, some Langer, I don't know where he's from anyway, come out with this idea, you know. But you look, the world is full of it. Anyway, there you have it, folks. I'm not going to delay. How are we doing time wise? Oh yeah, geez, that's a cracker, half an hour. I'll package this and I'll put this up onto YouTube for you. And as I said, you're helping me out by hitting the subscribe button. It just means that I need to be able to put in the proper channel name without all these crazy characters, and it gives me the analytics. It's all anonymized. I don't know who's actually looking or not. I can just see volumes, and that's all. Any questions, comments, insults, jokes even? No? Oh dear. I don't know. On that. Yeah, here we are, back again. I'm going to go off and do a little bit of work, and I will let you on that. We'll check the dates as to first drafts of your concepts or business ideas and so on and so forth. Have you all met up in your teams yet? Or if you have, just hit the reactions with thumbs up, or unfortunately there's no thumbs down on this thing. Have any of you hooked up at all yet? I mean, in your teams. I don't mean, I'm not interested in your personal lives. No, doesn't look good. No, none of the teams have hooked up at all yet. Jesus, guys, you want to get the old finger out, literally, and get a move on, you know, to come up with your. As I said, it's not a huge task, and you do it in a heartbeat, you know, and the rest is plain sailing after that. Make life easier for yourselves. And I'm not here to make life difficult. Jesus, I want an easy life as well. Anyway, within reason. Okay, I'm not going to hold you on. I will let you go, and I'll see you next Tuesday, and we'll take up from there, and then I'll be seeing more thumbs up that you will have had some get-togethers and thoughts, at least, on your business ideas, and get moving. All right, folks, listen, take it easy and have a good weekend, and we'll see you then on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.